just reminding that we've got that. So I'm going to move to what we really wanted to spend most of today on, and this is the Watercourse Commons. And so what we're going to do is 3 of the members of this working group, and just a reminder, we had agreed, probably last spring after looking at things, that having these pop-up work groups to help us stay action-oriented, get things done, was the way to go. And the Watercourse Commons has been doing a ton of work over the last few months. They're going to present to us, kind of show us an overview, kind of what it is, why they're doing it. And then we really wanted to have a larger group discussion. So thank you all for taking the time, because really want to figure out how to use this too. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Lily, Jeff, and Connor.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I'll kick us off. And I think I'm gonna screen share and just step us through that guidance document that got sent out. What is today? Tuesday? On Monday. And just kind of go over that together. So here I go, screen sharing. And can everybody see my screen? We should be looking at a PDF of the Watercourse Commons. Great, thanks, Seth and Catherine. So this is scientific recommendations for the space streams need to flood with minimal risk to infrastructure and property, naturally recharge groundwater, provide fish and wildlife habitat, and treat and filter pollution to maintain clean water. And so I'm going to scroll around a little bit here. So I'm sort of like looking at the relevant parts of the document to help me work through it. But we know that rivers function as an interconnected system, which includes their channel, their floodplain, and riparian area, in order to do these ecosystem services well. And we're calling this space the Watercourse Commons because every member of our community relies on these ecosystem services. So this initiative was derived from the objectives that we all developed together. Right when we came together to do our planning effort, it's snowing so much outside. Is that happening for everybody? It just unleashed. So when we all were planning together, the collaborative came up with 3 driving objectives, and that was water availability, water quality, and resilient landscapes. And they're listed here, and you can read those in more detail. And one of the most powerful tools that we have to address all 3 of those objectives is riparian vegetation and healthy stream corridors. The challenge is that of our over 1,000 miles, stream miles, about 40% of those stream miles are completely lacking in riparian vegetation. And I think we all recognize that the system is strained. We've got at least 14 or 15 of our streams are listed as impaired. Our limited water supply often doesn't quite get us through the summer for all of our water users. Hudal restrictions are limiting angling days. And then also there is damage due to flooding and erosion every year, and we're investing lots of taxpayer dollars and private dollars to stabilize infrastructure and to restore the system. So that's the impetus for this. We're facing this challenge. We really feel like improving the protection around stream sides can help address a lot of these challenges and meet the needs of those 3 objectives: water quality, water availability, and resilient lands. So we formed a collaborative working group of water resource professionals with expertise in, we developed a dream team. And so that was, we've got expertise in hydrology, ecology, hydraulics, stream morphology, fish and wildlife biology, and collectively we look to the literature. And a lot of DEQ and FWP have compiled a lot of the research in this area and had really great literature reviews that we referenced. And then we also look to the floodplain regulations and the channel migration.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on. Lily froze for a second. Let's see if we get her back. Otherwise, I may turn this over to one of the presenters. Lily?
I think the snow got her.
I think it did. The grapple is heavy. Connor, Jeff, do you want to pinch hit a little while we see if Lily can get back on? We're 3 blocks apart, so I don't know what the issue is. Oh, you're back. Oh, good.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, you are unfrozen.
Okay, did I cut out? Did you hear about our expertise? Awesome our team was. Okay.
Yes, that's the last place.
Okay, great. How about we did an extensive literature review, and we looked at the floodplain regulations and the CMZ report and existing setbacks, and we gathered all of this stuff into one place, and we synthesized it all down into a one-stop shop guidance document. Let's all get on the same page. Let's all read from the same playbook. Let's create something that's simple, easy to use, easy to access, so that when we're all going about our work as landowners, as consultants, as educators, as planners, we're using the same numbers, and we're sort of unifying our efforts and moving towards this common goal together. So it's trying to bring some consistency to this work. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Connor, and he is going to talk about our recommendations. So here we've got, I'm going to breeze through here. Oops, I'm not screen sharing anymore, am I? Here we go. So here's what the science is saying, and then Connor, let's cut to you for those recommendations.
Okay. Everyone hear me okay? All right. So yeah, so like Lily said, we took these scientific documents and we attempt to synthesize them into something that was like straightforward and understanding, or that we could all understand instead of having to like, comb through all these different documents and come up with slightly different numbers. But we're hoping that we can kind of get on the same page and adopt these numbers in general. So first off, we've got some definitions here. So with the Watercourse Commons, we're talking about a buffer first and foremost, that we're talking about putting on different size streams based on if they're large, medium, and ecologically significant or small. And so that is just simply for a large stream, for example, it'd be 300-foot buffer on each side of the stream, and that would be at the ordinary high water mark, 150 for medium ecologically significant, and 100 for small. A little bit of nuance there. When we say ecologically significant, these are streams that talking with FWP and stuff like that have a really high importance for fish and wildlife. A great example of this are spring creeks, which are really unique and special streams because they're groundwater fed. So, so that's where this ecologically significant term came from. So, so we've got the buffer there. And then when we're talking about water courses, we are only talking about natural or streams, rivers, creeks, drainages, waterways, gullies, ravines, washes, where water naturally or continuously or intermittently flows through a defined channel bed and banks. So what we're not talking about is anything related to agricultural water or diversion of that water for irrigation purposes. So we aren't telling you to put a buffer on the side of an irrigation ditch or anything like that. So we're not talking about conveyance systems. And then when we're talking about established riparian areas, we're using the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service definition. So these are plant communities that are associated with surfaced or groundwater that are related to a perennial or intermittent flowing water course.
So Connor, I'm going to jump in just really quick. So I think we skipped a little piece of the definition. So we're recommending a minimum buffer around small, large, and then these medium and ecologically significant streams. But then anywhere where the mapped floodplain or the channel migration zone map or established riparian zones pop out of that minimum buffer, that we also include those in the Watercourse Commons. So that's why Connor's talking about established riparian areas and how we define that.
Yeah, thanks, Lily. I skipped past that one. So yeah, this will be a lot clearer in a second. We've got some great maps that were put together, and it'll kind of show how in places where we have that additional information as far as like CMZs and FEMA map floodplains, they'll kind of stack on top of each other. So we'll get to those in just a second. So just try and stick with me. So next up here, we're going to go and actually show you what our different categories are and which streams fall into the large, medium, and small categories. We'll come back to these maps. Don't get too tied to them for the second. So again, we worked on this list, followed scientific recommendations for what a large, medium, and small stream is, and that's how we define these, and also working with local knowledge as well. So the large rivers, there's very few of them. They're the ones that you think of as being large rivers for the most part. And then medium and ecologically significant are usually the ones that are a step below that. And then everything else goes into this catch-all as small streams over there. So these would include the intermittent ones and things like that nature. So anyway, we have a list on here. If your stream isn't listed on here that you're working on or that you're concerned with, it goes into the small category. So, okay. So now we will go to the maps. And we'll start at the top and work our way down, because they did WGM put these together, and it's a really great way of kind of showing these. Okay, so the first thing is we're showing you just the buffer. So for example, this stream here, is this East Gallatin, Lily?
I think it's Main Stem Gallatin.
Main Stem Gallatin. So this is a large stream. So we have 300 feet on each side, automatically applied to the beyond the ordinary high water mark. So that's what we got there with just our buffer that we talked about. And then we scroll to the next one, and there's these other regulatory mapped areas that we then add on top of that. So we've got the channel migration zone, the FEMA flood area, and then the riparian vegetation areas as well. So now those are all
clarification, just the FEMA flood hazard area is regulatory, channel migration and riparian are non-regulatory. So just clarifying.
Thanks, Lily. So yeah, so those are stacked on top of each other. And so then what you'll see in this next picture here is that dotted line makes up the Watercourse Commons. So that includes the buffer that we're automatically applying to large, medium, small streams, and then any other additionally regulatory or non-regulatory information that's out there on these river systems. So they're just stacked on top of each other, okay? So if we go to other examples, like on a small stream, so let's go to another one here. So here's Bridger Creek. Bridger Creek has some of those additional regulatory or non-regulatory information for it. So you can see that it has the buffer, and then it also includes a little bit of that extra dotted line around it. If you scroll a little bit further, you get down to Dry Creek. See, it's not changing all that much. Most of the time that buffer is still within all those other regulatory things. Where it's really having capturing more than what we normally see is on our small streams, where there isn't that CMZ or mapped floodplain information. And so we have an example of that as well.
So now what are we talking about, Connor? What did we say we were going to say next? Oh, this is this. Yeah.
Okay. So with that, we work together, and again, using those scientific documents, we put together a list of activities or impacts that could occur within different areas of the Watercourse Commons, that buffer, and things of that nature. So there's this table here, and it's not an all-inclusive table. We lumped things together to make this more easy to go through. But basically, green means you're good. So if there's a green little box next to one of these things, that means that's a totally fine activity to occur within that area. So we kind of go down from like the stuff that's good to go everywhere to the stuff that's a little bit more restrictive as you move on down this list. So, you know, things like irrigation infrastructure maintenance, you need to do that stuff. That's allowed. We're suggesting that you do that, you know, within all these areas. Grazing, mowing, timber harvest, that's good as long as it's managed. You know, some unmanaged activities might be more impactful to some of these areas, and we want to make sure we're sensitive to that. We've also got, you know, different recreation things going on there, habitat restoration, managing weeds, and also, you know, essential roads and trail crossings with minimal impact to the floodplain. And then as you move down, we've got things that we kind of like eliminate some of these things that should only be happening, you know, maybe within like the Watercourse Commons, but beyond the buffer or completely outside of the Watercourse Commons. So in this case, you know, we're like lawns and golf courses should be on the outside of the Watercourse Commons. Septic tanks and leach fields should be on the outside of the commons. So these are just some of the examples. We want you to review this in more detail and look at it. And if you have what ifs and stuff like that, that would be helpful as well. So, Lily,
Yeah,
did you
so
want to
the
add
whole
anything to that?
idea, I think
Yeah.
the whole idea here with these impacts is saying like, okay, let's promote healthy riparian vegetation because that's what we need. We need streams that have the space to flood, to erode, and to have grow robust riparian vegetation. And if we're out there playing around in our bulldozers too much because we think it's fun, that has a negative impact on the stream's ability to perform these ecosystem services. So that's how this list was derived. Are we doing activities that promote and enhance that riparian vegetation, or do these activities degrade and impair the stream's ability to serve the common good? And Jeff, jump in anytime.
Yeah, maybe just touch on, you know, you guys hit really well on kind of the ecological health and what we get out of this for water quality and water quantity. But the other side of it that we were thinking of is kind of this human infrastructure type component where, you know, if you have these large floods, they're more prone to be taking out things when you lack that riparian buffer. So, you know, it's not only good for the river, it's good for us too.
Yeah, that's perfect, Jeff. Yeah, that's the whole thing about the commons. You know, we all depend on the ecosystem services, but also making sure we limit our activities. Some of our activities in there is also going to be beneficial for, you know, the health of our communities as far as, and also the well-being of all the infrastructure that we depend on as well.
Karen, I think that's the end of our what we had prepared, and I know you have a bunch of questions for us, and I think we're at that